Hello and welcome. This is my Minecraft Java 1.21.5 mud farm for producing massive amounts of mud. I'm not going to give you a full tutorial on how to build it. I'm just going to explain the components because I think it's pretty simple. To start with, the way it works, you come over here, stand right in this spot on top of the dropper or dispenser. I've got a dispenser, but it could have been a dropper. And right click. That's how you operate the farm, so it's extremely AFKable, no durability lost, and as you can see the speed with which I'm placing blocks, it's a very quick operating farm. You'll also notice I'm getting my blocks refilled. I'll show you how that works in just a moment, but very simple. These observers, every time a block gets placed, they detect it. That sends the signal into the block below, which goes into the redstone line, which feeds into this block, which powers your dispenser/dropper. Pushing one out, you can have a chest full of dirt here, so it'll feed into it and refill the dropper or dispenser, and you'll never run out of dirt. It doesn't give you too many, it gives you the perfect amount, except when you finish the farm, it typically gives you one extra, because it picks up the piston push as an extra move, or extra observation. That's the starting point. Once you've filled up the line, the last block will obviously be placed next to this fence post. Fence post no block, when you put a block next to it, gets changed. That change is an update that the observer can detect. So the observer notices, hey, I've put one, sends the signal into this redstone line, which powers all the pistons and pushes the dirt forwards. That's part one. Part two, when the dirt gets pushed forwards, it comes into this observer and triggers the next action. You do need to start with a block here so that this block gets pushed in to this point here in front of the dispenser. You can't have the observer facing into that point. It has to be in front of it so that it's not picking up when you change the dirt into mud or when the piston pushes the mud up. Once you've got your dirt coming across, it will, as I said, get detected. So the next line comes in, it's detecting this block being pushed over and sending a signal into this stone block. That powers both the redstone above it and below it. So you get two signals out. The top signal goes into a 1-tick repeater into this redstone line on top of the dispensers, which are full of water bottles, and triggers one of those water bottles to dispense, which will be into a dirt block here, converting it to mud. And then the second redstone line below has repeaters on 2 ticks, so that will trigger the pistons a tick after the dispensers. So dispenser goes first, and then piston pushes blocks up, and then it rinse and repeat. The way you deal with the water bottles, so every time the water bottle gets dispensed into the dirt, it becomes a glass bottle, and obviously you can't have that because that will not make more mud. So on the back I just have a simple Impulse SV designed storage filter, which is pulling glass bottles out of the dispensers. Can't pull out the water bottle because obviously you can only take glass. That then comes down through the signal, allows it to pass all the way through. If you don't know how Impulse SV designed this item filter and you don't understand how it works, you should look into it. They're really handy, but I'm not going to explain it in too much detail. I'll give you a quick rundown. At 41 items plus these 4 items, the signal coming out of the comparator is 3. Oh no, at 41 it's 2. As soon as the 42nd bottle goes in, it goes up to 3. That then 4 triggers this redstone repeater, powers this block, which inverts this redstone torch, which unpowers this block and means that this hopper can grab the item from this hopper. So it goes up to 42, triggers the redstone, and then can pull out that one block, come back down to 41. Those glass bottles go through the hoppers into this hopper line and across into a dispenser. You do, for this farm, need to have it going into a dispenser on either side and split it in the middle so that you're only really taking 2 glass bottles across to either side. If you do try and have it all go on one side, it won't run fast enough to refill, amongst other problems. Those dispensers are just powered by a redstone line, powered by a observer hopper clock. But it is worth noting this hopper clock can't just be placed. If you just place a hopper clock, you get 1 tick every 2 ticks, or whatever this is. But if you push your observer into place, it doubles up. You get twice the speed, and you need that to make this work. So that's how you deal with the water bottles. They go into the dispenser, they get shot off into this water column, float up, come around the corner. You do have to have this bit of an angle here so that it's got space for it to get thrown against this wall before it starts going over the hoppers. That way it comes along the edge here and it doesn't get caught in the hopper basin. It's important because otherwise it can't make it to this middle one. The other thing you need to note is both dispensers and these hoppers need to be completely full. If they're not, then if there's nothing in here, when you're trying to refill this guy, everything will just go into the first one. So if it's full, now it can go across the first one into the second one. Same thing on both sides, and that's how you refill your water bottles. That's the basics of the farm. That's the real crux of it all. You're pushing this column of mud upwards, and you just need to deal with it in a way. I mean, you could always just push it into a big pack and then dig it up, but I put a TNT dripper up the top. I'm not going to go into too much detail because it's not perfect in my farm. I could get it better so that it doesn't waste anything, but at the moment it's a little bit wasteful, just a tiny bit. And that should actually be covered too. I'll explain the waste in a moment. So the way this part of it works, just really quickly, again, exactly the same fence post observer setup as I had down here. Once the fourth block is placed or pushed into place, it lines up with the fence. That gets detected, sends a redstone signal, pushes the pistons, pushes the column across into a blast chamber. At the same time as it's triggering that, it also sends the redstone signal up this redstone line. You can use scaffolding for this, but scaffolding is a lot slower than a redstone line. This redstone line will trigger pretty much instantly. So once this last one goes in, it'll cycle, it'll push this up, and you'll see it's pretty much as soon as these push across, the TNT up the top will get triggered. So it's not instant, but it's a lot quicker than scaffolding where you'll be waiting 3 or 4 seconds for that signal to reach the top. And then just, yeah, comes over here into the blast chamber, gets pushed through, TNT drops, blows it up. And items fall into water. I know there's a few problems with this that are worth me mentioning because it's not perfect, far from it. Always with raiders. In this case, one of the problems I'm having is my chamber is a little bit too high. So sometimes when the TNT comes down, the mud blocks are still flowing through the water, and if they're too close to the explosion, even though they're in the water, they can get destroyed. So if you lower it down or have your TNT drop a little bit higher, trick is you kind of want your TNT going off somewhere around those 2 blocks there, maybe a bit further out. But you want them going off below the top layer so that it's blowing up the bottom ones first, because otherwise you might have that get destroyed and you've got a block sitting up there and the next TNT can destroy it. So you do want to make sure your TNT is going off just below. That all gets destroyed, goes into your water column and goes down into your large chest or whatever storage system you want. That's pretty much all of it. The only other thing worth mentioning, this thing seems to produce anywhere from about 7,000 mud an hour to I think about 14,000. The reason for the discrepancy is I can't be bothered actually testing it for an hour. I just did the math. How long does this take? It's less than a second. In fact, I'd say I'm getting about 2 lines a second. And at 2 lines a second, you're equaling about 14,000. There's a bunch more things to look at and worry about, but like I said, I'm not going into full tutorial, just explaining the basics, the things that I think are really useful, such as using the fence observer to really make the redstone super simplified for this sort of thing, and using the item filters to pull out the unnecessary water bottles and make sure that you're always firing full water bottles into your dirt. The one last thing I guess worth mentioning is the reason for its speed really comes from your ability to place blocks really quickly. You can obviously make one where it's using just a single feed coming in, but then you're standing here. Let's just do a quick you can of course use one of these, but it's a lot slower. Every time I press, it takes a while. Whereas over here, it's instant. I'm just holding down, there's no waiting. That bar block is basically getting placed while the piston heads are retracting. So you really slam them out, slam through them, and like I said, you're going to get a massive amount of mud. The only thing you need is obviously the dirt for your input, and you can set this up to run on maybe, have a stone generator with the moss converter, turning that that stone into moss, and then a AFK spot where you can sit there and bone meal whatever grows on top of the moss, and that will grow acacia trees, allowing you to make dirt or rooted dirt out of stone. But if you don't have enough dirt to sit here and pump it in, I don't know, you have a look around. There's plenty of dirt. You can find dirt. There's more than enough dirt. If you don't have enough dirt, this isn't the farm for you. Well, not this exact one. Anyway, that's it. Real simple, real basic. Lots of items. Fun to learn. A couple of nice, fun redstone mechanics worth knowing. Any questions, feel free to ask me below. And if this is useful or helpful, please like and subscribe. That'll encourage me to make more fun things. In the meantime, have fun Minecrafting.